What will the roster look like for Ross Hodge and West Virginia basketball for the 2025-26 season? We're going to talk about this episode of Hoops from the Hills. We're also going to touch on a little bit of Big 12 and national basketball as well. The ESPN Way Too Early rankings have come out. What do they look like? Are Big 12 teams being treated fairly in these rankings? What about teams like BYU, Texas Tech, who are spending money like crazy in NIL? We're going to talk about all that in this episode of Hoops from the Hills, and we'll do it right now. And I'm here with two very special guests, Mr. Andrew Samaha and Dylan. Guys, how y'all doing today?
I'm doing great. Anytime you get a chance to come on and talk college basketball, it's always exciting. I'm glad to be back here for the second time now after the UMass show we did back in November of 24. So I'm glad to be back, and thanks for having us back.
Yeah, this is my first time on the show, and I'm really excited to talk ball. That's just what I love to do. Really appreciate you bringing me on. Let's talk ball.
Absolutely, let's do it. And Andrew, congrats. That was a great memory, man, that you were able to spit out the month and the year like that. I knew you'd been on, but, man, if you asked me the month and the year, I'm clueless. And Dylan, welcome to the show, man. Glad to have you here. Just to give everybody some background, you're likely going to be seeing these two gentlemen a lot more here on the channel. As most of you who follow me know, this channel has been somewhat dormant. I've been putting a little bit of content up lately, but not a lot. But these two gentlemen are going to be doing some content on the channel for me and with me as well. I'll also be joining them some as well. But so get used to it. And these guys love basketball. They love college basketball, so they're going to be bringing you guys some great content. So let's go ahead and dive right in. First of all, I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself, give a brief introduction of who you are, what you do, and so let the fans get to know you a little bit. Andrew, go ahead. I'll start with you.
Yeah, if you guys remember me from back from the West Virginia UMass preview show, I am a UMass student, but I'm also a West Virginia fan at heart. So I was able to travel down to that game to broadcast with our radio station. That's one of the main things I do. And I'm our podcast director over at the radio station. So I'm glad to be involved in this podcast format. And yeah.
I'm Dylan. I'm also part of the same radio station that Andrew's didn't get to go to West Virginia, but that's a story for another day. But he gave me the call, asked me if I wanted to talk college hoops, and I would never say no to an opportunity like this. Very appreciative and very excited to get going.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you guys for doing it. And by the way, I have heard a little bit of when Andrew was going to come on the show, I did a little bit of research to, just find out who he was and what he did and all that, and heard you guys calling a game together. I'm pretty sure it was both of you on the game. Dylan, I know now because I heard your voice and it sounded familiar. But you guys do a fantastic job. I just want to let you know that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
No problem. Let's go ahead and jump in. First thing we're going to talk about, Ross Hodge, new coach at West Virginia. Unfortunately, DeVries leaving after 1 year. Let's go ahead and start because I really haven't had this conversation with either of you. What were your thoughts about Darren DeVries leaving West Virginia after 1 year, man?
Yeah, now that the dust has settled on that, I mean, at first, obviously, it was I was very emotional about how I felt about DeVries leaving. But when you look back at everything that was happening during the season, Tucker being shut down during that 3-day tournament down in, was it the Bahamas that they were playing in? It makes a lot of sense now that you look back on it that he was always planning on leaving. But I think Bren Baker really did a good job pivoting. Like Ross Hodge is a great option, and you've already seen it with the roster that he built for this coming season. That just because DDV left, it doesn't mean this team's going to be in shambles. He's done a great job rebuilding the roster coming into this year.
Yeah. What about you, Dylan? What are your thoughts?
I wouldn't say I'm necessarily surprised because that's just the type of ecosystem that basketball is right now. I will say they did a good job in replacing him, and that's the most important thing. I'm a big fan of the Ross Hodge hire. I think bringing in a guy who has not only good tournament experience, but good national tournament experience, making the semifinals of the NIT, is something that is very valuable to add to your coaching staff for sure.
Yeah, and he's a defensive-minded coach, which I think you need in today, really everywhere, but especially in the Big 12. And then his relationship with Ren Baker, I think that's a positive. They know they can work together. So they should both be, on the same page. And I like the roster he's assembled, which we're going to talk about right now. What jumps out to you, Andrew? What jumps out to you about this roster that Ross Hodge has assembled? And do you feel like it's I know he said he's going to add one more piece, but do you feel like it's pretty much complete at this point, or are there any things you'd like to see him add?
I think
Like
needs
a
to
big man, for example.
Most they're
they need another big. They need another. So expand on that as well.
Yeah, of course. They're definitely going to need more depth in the front court. But, I mean, right now, you take the roster that he's assembled and what he had when he came in, there's not a single player on this team that scored a point for the West Virginia Mountaineers last year. And he's gone out and he's gotten some absolute dudes that can go out there on the floor. For example, just Treysen Eaglestaff and Huff being two guys that have played a lot of basketball in their careers and have played in a lot of meaningful games, coming in averaging 19 and 15 points a game respectively. Those are two big adds for the team that are definitely going to be guys that are in the starting lineup from day one. And, of course, he's got his guys coming over from North Texas detail in a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, ideally you want more in the front court because right now the UNC Wilmington product, Harlan Obioha, is probably your only playable center on the roster at the moment, depending on how you view what Brennen Lorient can do at 6'9". But yeah, I mean, Oyedir off the bench he's got no experience playing, and I think he would play more of a Harris Elezevich role, like how he did last year off the bench. So you want to get just another piece like a Eduardo Andre type of build that can come off the bench and give you productive minutes at the center position, because we know any team that's defensive focused, they're going to get into a lot of foul trouble. And I mean, you put any Big 12 refs out there with the West Virginia Mountaineers, and they're going to find themselves in foul trouble anyways.
Yeah, I share the sentiment. I think another center would go a long way, but the main positive I'm looking at is Treysen Eaglestaff. I just don't think that this level of scoring will go away with increased competition. It might get harder for him, but this is a guy who can score at 3 levels, and that is valuable no matter where you go. He's going to be an absolute fixture in this team. And if you can build around him again, get another center, and get some good ball handlers getting the ball to him, and I think they've done a good job with this rebuild. I do have a lot of hope for this team.
Yeah. I think the biggest question marks, other than the big backup big question that we've talked about and the fan base seems to be super concerned about, is, and to me, it's not a major concern because I think the players he's brought in are really talented and I think they fit what he wants to do. But I know some among the fan base are concerned that we have too many guys coming in from lower levels. Like last year, for example, where they brought in Chester Frazier, an assistant coach, he was able to go out and grab guys like, the 2 Illinois kids, and their name was I'm drawing a blank on their names, but Sincere Harris.
And not Okani, no, it's Hansberry.
Amani Hansberry. Yes, thank you. Amani Hansberry and Sincere Harris. He was able to bring those 2 guys in. Obviously, which Okani came from a lower level, they brought him in, but they were able to bring in some guys who had played, they brought in Joe Yesufu. They brought guys who had played at the Power 4 level. And we're not seeing a ton of that this year, if any, honestly. So are you guys concerned about that at all for this West Virginia team? Do you think that concern, or do you look more at the talent level and the fit more so than what level they played at?
I mean, the fit and the talent level is always going to be important. And I mean, ideally, yes, you would get some of those guys that have played at the Power 5 level. But a lot of these guys that are coming in, they're 4th and 5th year guys that have played a lot of college basketball. So whether you put them in the Big 12 or they're playing in the AAC where North Texas is, they're still getting good experience. The AAC is a very competitive conference. It may be a mid-major, but it's probably one of, if not the best mid-major conference out there, which is where a lot of these guys are coming from as the North Texas guys. And a guy like Dylan mentioned, like Eaglestaff, he played for North Dakota, averaged 19 points a game there. That's not really going to go away. And then another guy that we haven't even mentioned yet, Chance Moore from St. Bonaventure. Yes. The A-10 is a very competitive league. I mean, me and Dylan both know as UMass guys that the A-10's no joke. This kid, he's a 6'6" guard that averaged 13 points and almost 7 rebounds there. Like he's a hound on defense, and all these guys that Hodge has brought in are going to fit in his system, whether they be high major guys or not, because you see so many teams now can be competitive with these non-Power 4, Power 5 guys. Like you see Drake, what they were able to accomplish this year, and that was just with D2 guys. So now you've got a lot of guys that have played four years at the college basketball D1 level.
Yeah, I would.
Drake's a great example. Go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah, Drake is definitely the example, but more so, even just surrounding Drake and surrounding teams like that, the most important thing, especially having a young coach and rebuilding entirely, is the fit. You can have the most players in the world. It's only going to do you so much if you don't have a system that's going to go around and the players are going to understand, and you're not going to be able to win basketball games if you have a defensive head coach and you have a really offensive team that's not willing to play defensively in the same way. I think they've done a good job in building a team and what they want to do. Now, what I would say is a little bit concerning to me that I mean, the center is definitely concerning. I don't think the guards have enough shooting. I think the guards, there is shooting there, but I think a high level 3-point shooter at the guard position would make this team a lot more dangerous going down the line, especially in Big 12 play. I don't know if you guys agree or not. It's just what I've seen.
Now, are you now? Obviously, we talked about Eaglestaff and Honor Huff earlier. Do you think they need more outside of those two? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, Eaglestaff's a forward. I think he's going to end up playing as the 3. Honor Huff, I don't really know what to expect out of him because I'm not quite convinced about his Chattanooga.
Okay.
Like, I mean, they won the NIT, but I tend to struggle believing in a player to take the reins as a point guard at a Power 4 school who doesn't really have a multitude of experience playing in good competition. Now, fit, I agree that fit is the most important thing, but I also just don't know his defensive resume, and it's just a little bit of a concern to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think Honor's, honest, that's kind of a hot take because I think Mountaineer fans are definitely high on him. But to me, when you look at Honor Huff, it's just his elite shooting ability. I mean, he's able to shoot over guys much larger than him. He's got such a quick trigger. But it is fair to question, can he do it in the Big 12? Because it's going to be a different animal for sure. The defenses are harder. The players are bigger. They're faster. They're going to close out much faster. So that's fair. And, he's only 5'11", so that is a fair concern. And I'm kind of with you. I would like to see shooters, but I think they have enough though, because I think with Huff and Eaglestaff, and I think once you throw in, I think Chance Moore can shoot the ball. They got Morris Ugasuk from South Carolina. Now he's probably not going to be an elite scorer, but he's a guy who can drain a 3 ball when you need him to. He is one of the few power forward guys they were able to go get. So I do think they have enough scoring. My concern, honestly, is depth on the interior, like we talked about, and do you have that true ready to go backup point guard? And they got Jasper Floyd coming from North Texas, and they went out and got Amir Jenkins, that true freshman who reclassified for 2025. But is he going to be ready as a 17-year-old kid? I don't know. Maybe Huff can play the point. Maybe I've heard that Eaglestaff could potentially even play the point some because of his ball handling ability. So I don't know, man. I'm a little concerned about the point guard spot as well. What are your guys on the point guard position as far as the depth goes at that spot?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the type of basketball that's been played at the guard position. You mentioned Honor Huff, obviously. He's someone who can shoot the 3 ball. And then I like that you brought up Amir Jenkins. He's a young guy coming in, as you said, he reclassed, but he was a top 75 recruit in the 2026 class, and he remained in that top 100 when he reclassed into 2025. I'm a big fan of Amir Jenkins. I could also have some bias. He went to school about 15 minutes away from where I live, over at Worcester Academy. So I am a bit biased towards him. But yeah, the guard room is very young outside of Huff, of course, which is not a position that you want an experience at, especially in the Big 12, dealing with a lot of long, strong defenders at the guard position, and you need somebody who can be a very in-control ball handler. And I don't think that Honor Huff provides a dominant presence at the point guard as a ball handler. And I don't know who off this bench. Jasper Floyd, I know he's a good passer. He can come off the bench, and he's played a lot of basketball in his career, so he'll be very helpful. But Ugasuk and the other freshmen they've got, not a lot of basketball being played behind them heading into the Big 12.
Yeah.
I think Jasper Floyd is the ideal 6th man for this team, just with all the experience he has and his pass-first mentality. In a team where you don't really have a lot of great depth scoring, having a pass first guy coming in off the bench, especially when he's going to be playing in with the starters a lot, I think that's really beneficial. He's someone that I'd keep my eye on for this team.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't be surprised if he starts. Honestly, I think just because of his knowledge of what Ross Hodge wants to do, I think he's going to bring that a little extra leadership because of that, because of his experience in Coach Hodge's system. And I think Coach Hodge may want him on the floor as much as possible. And you mentioned he's a pass first guy. If you're going to have Huff out there, and if you're going to have Eaglestaff, and you're going to have Brennen Lorient, a guy we haven't really talked enough about yet, you're going to have those guys out there to do some of your scoring. I think Jasper Floyd's a good piece with those guys, but he could be the sixth man. Obviously, it's yet to be determined, but I wouldn't be surprised if he starts. But I do like the idea of him being a sixth man if that's what the direction they need to go. I'm perfectly okay with it.
Yeah, I like the idea of him also a starter. I was going to mention that as a possibility with maybe Chance Moore coming off the bench, because the projected starting lineup that I think I would go with, or that I think Ross Hodge would go with, is the best way I should put that, is Huff, Floyd, Eaglestaff, Lorient, and then at the center position, I'm blanking on his name. From Wilmington.
Obioha,
excuse me, sorry. I think that's going to be your starting five, and Chance Moore is the best piece you could bring off the bench with his and extreme athleticism and great defensive presence.
But you'd rather start Floyd than Chance Moore?
I think Moore brings you a lot more off the bench. So when you reach that under 16 timeout, he comes in as a nice spark plug to keep the momentum going from what the starting lineup would be doing.
Yeah, I mean, I see that vision, but at the same time, having a guy as small as Huff as your point guard, and then you can contrast that with a 6'6" guard, I feel like that suits better. That's just my opinion, though.
No, that's fair. I think Huff is somebody that's just going to be in the starting lineup, like Hunter Huff and Eaglestaff are the two that those are going to be the two guys that are leading the team this year. And the ball is going to be in their hands a majority of the time, if I had to say. I mean, Huff last year, he shot 41% from three. So if you can create openings for him, I mean, he is a smaller guy. They list him at 5'10", 55. So you're going to have to find ways to get him open and get him into space. But, I mean, with his shooting ability, he's a guy that you're going to want on the floor as much as possible.
Agreed. I want to touch on two guys, and then we'll move over to the next topic, is Brennen Lorient and Jackson Fields. Two guys who are going to probably lock down probably the 4 spot. I could even play the 5 if you need them to, especially Fields. What are your guys' thoughts on those two guys and what they can contribute to the team?
Yeah, Brennen Lorient, he's another guy that he brought, I think it was a sixth-man level of the year type of production to North Texas last year. He averaged 12 points and 5 boards to go with a block a game last year. And I do think he's going to be someone that's in the starting lineup, considering he's coming with Ross Hodge from North Texas. But a guy like him is so needed on this team, someone that can bring you everything on the floor. He checks all the boxes. And as far as Jackson Fields goes, like and Lorient as well, both of these guys have played so much college basketball. Like Fields is going into his senior season now, where he just played at Troy, and you can look at Troy and say, well, that's a mid-major school where he only averaged 8 and 5 a game, but he's coming off the bench with that 8 and 5 from Troy. He's very athletic, good rebounding upside, and he plays great defense. So there's a lot of guys on this West Virginia team that they just play very solid defense, and they're very athletic.
Yeah.
If we're playing the trajectory game with Brennen Lorient, we could see a monster season. Amongst AAC players, he had the largest increase in points per game from the season before. He had 421 points, which was the second in the country amongst players off the bench. 178 total rebounds. This is a guy who was able to really impact the game at every level when he was on the floor. He's going to be a stalwart in this team. He's going to be someone that's going to be able to make a big difference from the jump. As far as Jackson Fields goes, you can never doubt experience. Experience is the best teacher, and in a team with a lot of experienced players kind of playing in back roles, he's going to be someone that is kind of just going to fit in. He's going to be a good depth piece who will make some important plays and very important moments. I don't really have all too much to say about him outside of that. He's just another cog in the machine.
Yeah, I mean, if he's a guy that can, if he's a guy that can give them 10, 12 minutes a game, 5-6 points a game, and a few rebounds, and he plays really good on the defensive end, I think that's what you want, in my opinion. I don't think you need to ask him. You know, he might have a game or two where he puts double figures up, but I don't think that's really what you need him for. I think he's usually a solid depth piece, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way either. I think he'll be a good player, not necessarily a starter, but who knows? He may end up surprising me and doing even better than that. But we'll see.
Yeah, and Lawrence, he's a guy that when he went into North Texas last season, he didn't have much play under him. Like, he played 2 seasons at FAU where he didn't really he didn't produce and he didn't really play much, and then he goes into his first year getting real play time and he really shows out. So there still can be even more room for growth because he's only really gotten minutes in 1 season. So when you make that jump, now he gets that year under his belt and he's going to go into next year with an established core already to build on, which is always something to be hopeful for.
Hey, do me a favor. Go check out my good friends over at Appalachia Digital. If you need a brand new website for your small business, or if you're just looking to get found easier on Google, go check out appalachiadigital.com/Couz. These are the fine folks who designed my brand new website over at WVSportsChat.com. They did a fantastic job. I love their work. I think you will too. So go check them out. appalachiadigital.com/Couz. Let them know Couz sent you. I also want to thank them for supporting my work here at Couz's Corner and at Hoops from the Hills. Now let's get back to the show. All right, let's go ahead and jump topics, guys, if you're cool with that. We're going to go ahead and touch on a little national, look at the national scope here and maybe focus a little bit on the Big 12. But ESPN had their way too early predictions out for this coming season. What were your guys' thoughts on where they had their rankings overall? And B, focusing on the Big 12, who was too high, who was too low in your all's opinion? Andrew, we'll start with you.
Yeah, well, number 1 on the list, which is a pick that I absolutely love by ESPN. Normally, when you get these ESPN too early rankings and everything, there's always something to scoff at. But I think they got it they hit the nail on the head with Purdue at the number 1 spot. They're returning their deadly trio from last year of Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, and Trey Kaufman-Renn. This was a team that they got to the Sweet 16 last year, where they lost by 2 points to a Houston team that lost in the national championship to Florida, of course. And they've brought in big man Oscar Clough from South Dakota State, who averaged 17-12 at South Dakota State. And he's a big guy. He comes in at 6'11", 260. That just feels like a Purdue center right there, up there with the Zach Edey's and the Caleb Swanigans. He fits in perfectly. So that pick at number 1. And then you take a look at where they've got the Big 12 schools. They put Houston at 3, BYU at 6, Texas Tech is at 10, Arizona 13, Iowa State 18, and Kansas coming in at 21. So just about what you would expect for what Big 12 schools will be in the mix of the top 25. There is no Baylor in there, of course, but these top tier Big 12 schools, as we start to move along with how conference realignment shaked out, is looking different now because you don't have your Oklahoma and Texas, of course. So it definitely still takes me a little bit to get used to seeing BYU and Houston as Big 12 teams, and now these are your 2 dominant Big 12 teams. It probably will be for a while, especially if BYU keeps getting all this money that they have to basketball.
Yeah, BYU is on the rise, and having the number 1 player in the 2025 top 100 in AJ DeBonsa will only help them climb, but that's not all that this team is. And I think 6 is a fair ranking for them. I'm actually not convinced that they're necessarily worse than Houston coming into this year, because outside of Uzan and Sharp, they don't have anyone that really has played good college basketball minutes or good enough to justify the 3. It's a very young team. They're the 3rd ranked team in the country. And I blindly trusting Kelvin Sampson. I don't think that's necessarily the wrong thing to do. But at the same time, a question has to be asked about that. It's a very raw and young team. And to put them ahead of the likes of a UConn or even, I'm not so high on St. John's this year, but even like a Michigan or a BYU, I don't necessarily know if I agree.
Really, I have to just challenge one thing you said there. You said you're not too high on St. John's, and what is it about St. John's that you're not high about?
I feel
Because
like
I love this roster.
yeah, but the roster is only the roster. And I know that sounds like a stupid argument, but I feel like their magic was last year. I don't think they're going to be able to do it again. And whether do it again means win the Big East or compete for a national championship, I feel like this team is just not the same. And I feel like there's going to be a little bit of I don't know if I want to call it a mentality problem, but I just don't see a return to what they were.
Well, RJ Luis, of course, is gone now. He got like bullied out of St. John's by the fans and forced to enter the draft. Didn't get drafted, unfortunately. But they brought in Bryce Hopkins, Ian Jackson from North Carolina, Jozon Sannon from Arizona State, and Ozias Sellers from State. I don't know. I really believe in what Pitino can do with these guys. We saw the magic this year with RJ and Richmond at the guard position and how well they did in the regular season. Obviously, they got bounced pretty early in the tournament, but I always am a believer in St. John's. But moving away from them and back to the Big 12, I agree. I think BYU is probably the best team going into this. I mean, AJ DeBonce has been considered possibly a better prospect than even Cooper Flagg is, and we saw what Cooper Flagg just did this year and how high he took them. And you pair this with everything that BYU's got going on. They're bringing back Richie Saunders, and they've got Robert Wright, who West Virginia fans probably know from Baylor. He just averaged 11.5 points a game there. Now he's coming in as like the third or fourth option on the team. The BYU is going to be lethal, and I think Texas Tech as well is going to be lethal. They don't have a lot of experience at the front court position, but they're returning JT Toppin, who's probably to have like a first-team All-American season this year.
They lost Darian Williams, though. And, I mean, bringing back JT Toppin's huge. And then bringing in Lawan Watts as a three that can really make an impact is a good move. But I don't know how quickly they're going to be able to replace Darian Williams. That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the roster, and I can only speak so highly about JT Toppin. But, I mean, also head coach Grant McCasland, who if West Virginia fans know that name, that's because Ross Hodge took over for him at North Texas when McCasland came to Lubbock to take over the Red Raiders. But anyways, moving on to like the rest of the Big 12 in this early innings is Arizona at 13, and I gotta say, if there's a team in here that I do think might be misplaced, is Tommy Lloyd's squad. They're returning some production. They're bringing back Jaden Bradley, but other than him, that's about it. They've got two guys in ESPN's top 15 rankings that are both 5 stars, of course, so that's always something to believe in. But I just want to hear your thoughts about Arizona.
I'm not convinced by them. But at the same time, I recognize that having 2 top 15 recruits could either mean that you're having a jump up or it's going to be a slow start. And I think that they do have the capabilities outside of those guys. They are relying on them a lot, but they have guys that have played solid minutes, Jaden Bradley. And I do believe in Tommy Lloyd. So I don't know how they're going to compete against the Big 12 teams we've talked about. I think Houston's better than them. I think BYU's better than them. I don't know if they're next. I wouldn't be surprised if Kansas is better than them. I know they're ranked pretty low down here. But Arizona, it's a prove it year for them. I'm not putting too much stock into them.
Yeah, no, Kansas seems to be a team that's they're very slowly, I think, slipping away a little bit now. Like last year was a very tough season.
I was going to be my next question. What in the heck's going on at Kansas? Are they now losing their place as the top team in the Big 12 conference? So keep going.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, Houston's already taken over that spot, I think, as the number one team. Like, they're the team to beat. They're the Kansas of the past 15 years, what Kansas was, haunting the Big 12. And I don't know if it's Bill Self's just scheme not working anymore, but last year I had the privilege of being at the first round game where they played against Arkansas, and we saw Calipari and his squad, who Calipari's a coach, he has a history of losing these first round games and tournaments, and he still was able to take down Kansas. And you look at their team this year, it doesn't strike Kansas into my eyes anymore. Like all the gritty players of the past, the Perry Ellises, the Frank Masons, Devontae Graham, Josh, like all those guys that used to play for the team. I don't see one of those on this team. I do know that they have the number 2 recruit in the whole class in Darren Peterson, who will be a key anchor for them. But outside of him, the image just isn't there for me. I mean, they've got 2 guys coming in from the Big 12, or the A-10, excuse me, and Melvin Council and Jaden Dawson, who are going to be part of that starting lineup. And while they were great in the A-10, as starters at Kansas, I know I said the A-10 is a great league. I just can't see these 2 guys as starters at Kansas leading Kansas back to being what they were at their peak. You know,
Dylan,
it
what
would
about
be
you?
different if there were. It would be different if there were starters at Kansas and a team that already had established scoring. But these are the 2 most established scorers in their lineup. I get that the team lives and dies by Darren Peterson, but you'd wish they surrounded him with at least a little bit more esteemed scorers, especially for a team with the history and culture of Kansas. You've already been taken out of that top spot in the Big 12. No one's looking at Kansas to win national championships, at least for the last couple of years. If you want to get back there, bringing in a guy like Darren Peterson, of course that's going to help, but more importantly, you have to play the portal right, and I just don't think they did.
Yeah, I think this era, this is just my opinion, I think NIL has allowed some of these other teams to catch up with Kansas. So players that Kansas may have gotten in the past are now going to other schools who might have deeper pockets, like the BYU or Texas Tech, someone like that. Now, the revenue share era is here or on the way. Will that help with that? We don't know yet. We'll see. And two, the transfer portal. You know, Kansas is not able to have guys like Perry Ellis hang around for what felt like 15 years. And play for them for their entire career, right? Because guys are coming in 1-2 years and they're out, or they're having to transfer in, and it's also making me question Bill Self and his ability to find the right guys in the portal. You know, why all of a sudden is that a struggle for him? It's very baffling to me, but you know, it'll be interesting to see how maybe they outperform. It's if I was a Kansas fan, I'd be concerned that we're having to build our team around a true freshman. I mean, yes, he's good. Don't get me wrong, but like you. Duke last year, Cooper Flagg, but Duke had a lot of talented players surrounding Cooper Flagg, right? He wasn't the only good player on that team. So I'm just concerned. If I was a Kansas fan, I'd be concerned about that, Dylan, exactly what you said. Who else can pick up the slack? Maybe the 2 players you mentioned can, but yet to be determined. But yet, it's definitely going to be interesting to see if Kansas can ever get their mojo back anytime here in the next year or 2.
Yeah, and I think what previously happened in the transfer portal for them, that could potentially scare away some guys who are in the portal, the top level guys, from committing to Kansas, because 2 of the top guys in the portal last year were Rylan Griffin and AJ Storr, and they both committed to Kansas, and they both flopped at Kansas. Neither one of them worked out. And outside of Hunter Dickinson last year, they had Zeke Mayo, and DeJuan Harris has, of course, always been there. And he was always good, but DeJuan had a down year last year, didn't meet his expectations. Hunter Dickinson, you know what you're going to get from him, but if he has a bad game, it's really bad for Kansas. And I think that's building. I think everything that happened last year is building into this year for Kansas, and that's why you see BYU. They're so hyped up right now because they've got DeBonsa, of course, number 1 in the class, but they surrounded him with talent. And you mentioned Kansas; they've got number 2 in the class in Peterson. But the talent around him is just not there.
Yeah.
Get that this is a team that isn't what they were. That's apparent. But the last 2 seasons for Kansas with Bill Self, I think stubbornness has started to become a problem, because this is a guy who's won NCAA championships. He's been constantly in the top 3 or first even in the Big 12. And in the last 2 seasons, tied for 5th and 6th in the standings, round of 32, round of 64 in the tournament. Something's not working, but he's not putting in the ideas or implementing the structure to fix it. And it's something that I've seen with some of these older coaches that have been around for a long time. And maybe it is just the difference in recruiting and the difference in NIL. But there has to be something basketball wise that he is just fundamentally not understanding. Because a guy who's as smart as he is as a coach can't just be missing something.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair criticism. Fair point.
And excuse me.
No, go
A
ahead.
team we haven't even touched on yet. ESPN has them at 18th in their rankings. This is a team that I think always outdoes their projection, at least under the in the era of TJ Otzelberger is Iowa State.
Yeah, I can't believe how have we not talked about them yet? Holy
yeah,
crap.
they're always a team that they're going to be up there. But I mean, of course they're losing Keyshawn Gilbert and they're losing Curtis Jones from last year, but they're still bringing back Taman, who's one of the top players in the Big 12. They've still got I always butcher pronouncing his last name, Momcilovic.
Milan Momcilovic.
Milan Momcilovic, yeah. And Josh Jefferson. They're bringing back almost 50% of their scoring from last year, which is not something that a lot of teams across the entire landscape of college basketball can claim. Right. And TJ Otzelberger is one of the best coaches in the country, so I'll always give Iowa State a little bit of props, and I don't think 18 is good enough for them.
Yep, that's very fair. And, man, thank you for giving them those shout-outs because I had completely forgotten about the Cyclones. Cyclones fans, forgive me. Dylan, what are your thoughts on the Cyclones, man?
It's kind of the same with the rest of the conference where, I mean, they definitely do have better upside than 18. But at the same time, if you look at what their starting lineup's projected to be and then you take into account what Dominic Nelson is projected to be, I feel like it's fair. I mean, they always do have that play from down ability that a lot of teams don't have, but I just think on paper this is a pretty weak side comparatively to the rest of the list, so I can't really get mad at them for putting them that low.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, gentlemen, any last thing you want to touch on or things you want to say before we end the show?
Yeah, I wanted to say this is very early. It's July 24th, and March Madness isn't until March, of course, the end of March and then into April. But I'm going to make a very early champion prediction pick.
Okay, let's do it.
And ignoring the fact that ESPN has them this high, I mean, I have to pick Purdue. I think this is the year that they're finally going to get over the edge. They have the elite guard play that has been around for a while, and I mean, Trey Kaufman-Renn and Oscar Clough at your 4 and 5 is just absolutely lethal. So I'm going to make an early prediction out there, and I'm gonna put it out there now. If I'm right, come April, I can do laps about it.
Dylan, do you have a hot take or a hot prediction?
I don't know how hot it is, but it's 3 Ds: Dan Hurley, Silas Samari, and defense. I'm going UConn to win the national championship, and 4 actually depth. This is a team that does have that down the line, and playing in a difficult conference, playing against difficult competition all year. I think they have the experience and the ability to get the job done down the line.
Awesome. So UConn and Purdue are our 2 national title championship picks. I'm going to be a homer and say West Virginia. No, I'm not picking West Virginia. I'm going to say this is the year that Big 12 finally last year Houston came so close. We saw Texas Tech come close, 3-4 years ago, kind of in between the Baylor and Kansas championship seasons. Yep. Daggone it, I'm picking Houston. Houston's finally going to get it done this year. Kelvin Sampson's got to win a ring, man, before he retires.
He's a phenomenal coach, and I mean they do have Uzan and Sharp back. They've got 2 top 15 prospects, both 5 stars, and the media really liked Joseph Tugler last year, even though he didn't live up to it as much, but he's still a great player.
Yeah, I'm more on Houston than Dylan is. I just think Kelvin Sampson is one of the greatest coaches in college basketball, and he's going to have he can take guys and he finds a way to get them to elevate their game maybe a level higher than they could for other coaches. I think he just had ability, and if you give him guys that are talented, he can just take them to another level. So I'm going to say this is the year, and they're going to be hungry. They're going to have a bad taste in their mouth. I think this is the year Houston gets it done. But again, it's July, and it is what it is. I'll probably be wrong, and I'm okay with that. So, but yeah, thank you guys for doing this. Again, for all of you out there, you'll be seeing these 2 guys here on the channel a lot more. I'm excited about what they're going to bring to the table. A lot more national college basketball 12 content, and even we'll continue to cover the Mountaineers here as well. So anyway, thank y'all for tuning into the show. Thanks to Andrew and Dylan for hopping on with us. Y'all have a good day. God bless, and we're done.